Okay, so you've got your project and you're ready to start. We do need to start by documenting and thinking about a few things. Now, the reason that this is important is because when you progress down the project and, there's all these external factors and the project team's excited and, the sponsor's saying, oh, what about this? You need to have some solid foundation to go back to and say, look, we had agreed on these things. Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be changes along the way, and I will talk about variations a bit later on, but right now, you want the variances to your original project to just be obvious. So the best and easiest way to do that is to document a few key elements. So the key elements that I want you to be documenting are your scope. So the first thing you want to think about is what is in this project? What is the scope of the work that we have to achieve to be able to say at the end, we've successfully delivered this? Now, sometimes that can be a little bit hard, and what can be easier often is thinking, what is out of scope? Like, what might kind of cross the line or be related to what we're doing, but we're not going to be doing? And that in-scope and out-of-scope conversation is really critical, and if you have that with your project team or with your sponsor, you can get real clarity over what it is that you need to be doing, and then you as the project manager can be off planning that. The other thing I want you to think about is the project objective. Why are we doing this in the first place? Again, if there are changes later down the track, you want to know, like, this is why we set out to do this all those months or even years back. Is this still the objective that we're going for? Like, is this still relevant? And if we are making some changes, does this align to this objective? So once you've got your objective and your scope, you start looking into the detail of the project. One of the most important elements is about your project team. So your core project team are the people who are going to be doing the work within the project. And you want to understand really what's the roles and responsibilities of both them, but also maybe any sort of external or peripheral project team members or wider audience that might be impacted or might be having impact on your project. Some typical roles and responsibilities that we would usually see in a project would be the project sponsor. So the project sponsor is usually responsible for a budget, like they're maybe providing you with a budget or authorising it, and maybe authorising the bigger decisions and probably the driving force behind the reason why you've been given this project. You would usually be the project manager, and it's important to understand the difference in responsibilities between the two and being really clear on what each person brings to the project team. Then within your core project team, you will have a number of different roles, and they will vary very much depending on what sort of project you're running. But what is important to do is to clarify so that you're aware, but also, and probably more importantly, each of your team members is aware of the area that they're responsible for. And write that down so everyone can see it, and also so everyone can question it and really understand what they bring to the project and what they are responsible for delivering. In any project, there is usually more than just the key project team that's, sort of influencing or around the project or impacted by the project. So it's incredibly important to work out who your key stakeholders are. Now, stakeholder analysis is a whole piece of work all in itself, and I'll do a session specifically on that later on for you. But right now, what I just want you to think about is, who are the main stakeholders in my project, and how am I going to involve them in my project? And what level of responsibility do they want to have, or do I want them to have? Think about things like steering groups, advisory groups or reference groups. So you're starting to really bring the people in where you think they might have some, some thought around the project, or they might be able to influence the outcome of the project. Bring them in early on and think about how you might use them. And of course, don't forget about your primary end user or customer as well, and how are you going to get them to judge the success of your project or get some of their feedback along the way as well. But the first part in setting up the project is really just understanding all those key stakeholders and project team members and being really clear yourself on the roles of responsibilities of each.